So, before he died, comedian John Ritter starred in the fairly successful sitcom. Does anybody remember the name of that show? 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Daughter. Now, I never watched that show, so I don't know if they ever shared actually those 8 rules, right? I don't know if they shared it. However, years ago, I received an email that listed another father's rules for dating his daughter, and I was so impressed with the list that I amended it. And now that my daughter seems to be getting to that dating age, which I thought was going to be 25 to 40, she is telling me it's no, Dad, 17, 18. So anyway, it's not my list, but I want to share it with you. I have added a couple things here and there, but this is just for any boy that wants to date the most precious thing in my entire life. All right? So here it is. Rule number 1. If you pull into my driveway and honk, you better be delivering a package because you're sure not picking anything up. Number 2. You do not touch my daughter in front of me. You may glance at her so long as you don't peer at anything below the neck. If you cannot keep your eyes or hands off of my daughter's body, I will remove your hands from your body. Okay, number 3. I am aware that it is considered fashionable for boys of your age to wear their trousers loosely so that they may appear to be falling off their hips. Please, 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 don't take this as an insult, but you and all of your friends are complete idiots. But still, I want to be fair and open-minded about this, so I propose a compromise. You may come to the door with your underwear showing and your pant 10 sizes too big, and I will not object. However, in order to ensure that your clothes do not come off at any time during the course of your date with my little girl, my daughter, I will take my electric nail gun and fasten your trousers securely in place to your waist. Amen?
Amen.
Number 4. Rule number 4. It is usually understood that in order for us to get to know each other, we should talk about sports or politics or other issues of the day. Please do not do this. The only information I require from you is an indication of when you expect to have my daughter safely home at my house. And the only word I need from you on this subject is early. Rule number 5. I have no doubt that you are a popular fellow with many opportunities to date other girls. This is fine with me as long as it's okay with my daughter. Otherwise, once you have gone out with my little girl, you will continue to date no one but her until she is finished with you. If you make her cry, I will make you cry. Rule number 6. The following places are not appropriate for a date with my daughter. Places where there are beds, sofas, or anything softer than a wooden stool. Places where there are no parents, policemen, or nuns in eyesight. Places where there is darkness. Places where there is dancing, holding hands, or happiness of any kind. Places where the ambient temperature is warm enough to induce my daughter to wear shorts, tank tops, midriff t-shirts, or anything other than overalls, a sweater, and a goose-down parka down by the river. strong romantic or sexual themes are to be avoided. Movies which feature chainsaws are okay. Hockey games are okay. Old folks' homes are better. Number 7, do not lie to me. It may appear to be, I may appear to be a pot-bellied, baldy, middle-aged, dim-witted as-been. But on issues relating to my daughter, I am the all-knowing, merciless God of your universe. If I ask you where you are going and with whom, you have one chance to tell me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I have a shotgun, a shovel, and 5 acres behind the house. Do not mess with me. And number 8, okay? This is the last one. I hope these have been nice enough. Okay. If you're going to date my daughter, be afraid. Be very afraid. Because here's the deal. I get to pastor both city cops and military cops. And I also have, give it to me, Barb Chime in the house. Now listen, you already saw what she did to her husband when he came up here. Don't be coming up here telling me to pass the baskets. I mean, listen, you don't want to mess with Barb Chime, okay? Thank you for working right into that, Barb. That was perfect. So when you exit your vehicle, speak the perimeter password, which if you're at this church with my daughter, sitting back there, the perimeter password is, yes, I will help in the nursery, okay? And then you are to announce in a clear voice that you have brought my daughter home safely and early. Then return to the car. There is no need to come inside. And by the way, the camouflage face at the window is mine. There it is, my 8 simple rules for dating my one and only daughter. Hey, today we're going to be jumping back into a sermon series called Guard Rules. And we've been talking about how to build a perimeter around certain areas of our lives so that we don't cross over, so we don't do that target and go over the edge in our lives and roll and burn and crash. Those guardrails are there for a reason. They are there to stop us dead in our tracks. Yeah, we might get bruised up a little bit here and there, but guardrails save us from the total crash and burn. I would invite you to turn over to 1 Kings chapter 11, verses 1 to 13. This is the story of Solomon. And 1 Kings chapter 11, verses 1 through 13. A couple of things while you're looking that up. If you don't have a Bible with you, you can always download you can always download Thrive's app. You can always get our app and it has the Bible Gateway. Hey, by the way, you have no idea what it does when somebody likes us on Facebook or writes a review. That means so many more people get to see what you have said and what we're saying as a church. So if you get a chance to do that, we'll stay on that for a couple months. That's pretty cool. Okay, so today, I gave you 8 rules for dating my daughter, but today's sermon is called One Simple Rule for Protecting Your Family. Wouldn't you love to protect your family with all the stuff that goes on in our culture? Wouldn't you just love to be able to protect your family? But we're going to talk about that, and we're going to use Solomon, we're going to use David as a backdrop, and some other people too. But we're going to start in 1 Kings chapter 11, verses 1 to 13. If you are ready for the message, would you look at your neighbor and say, I'm ready. All right, great. All right, so we'll start in verse 11. King Solomon, however, loved many foreign women besides Pharaoh's daughter, Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Syrians, and Hittites. They were from nations about which the Lord had told the Israelites. Now watch this. God had told Solomon, you must not intermarry with them, because they will surely turn your hearts after their gods. Nevertheless, Solomon held fast to them in love. He had 700 wives of royal birth. Can you imagine that? What do you do with that? 700 wives. And 300 concubines. and his wives led him astray. As Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods. And his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father had been. He followed Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. So Solomon did evil in the eyes of the Lord. He did not follow the Lord completely, as David his father had done. On a hill east of Jerusalem, Solomon built a high place called Chemosh, the detestable god of Moab, and Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. He did the same for all of his foreign wives who burned incense and offered sacrifices to their gods. The Lord became angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. Although he had forbidden Solomon to follow other gods, Solomon did not keep the Lord's command. So the Lord said to Solomon, since this is your attitude, and you have not kept my covenant and my decrees which I commanded you, I will most certainly tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your subordinates. Nevertheless, for the sake of David, your father, I will not do it during your lifetime, Solomon. I will tear it out of the hand of your son. Yet I will not tear the whole kingdom from him, but will give him one tribe for the sake of David my servant, and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen. Now, drivers, you know this. In the heart of every parent lies the desire to protect their little girl, their little boy from harm. Good moms and dads make sure that everyone understands no one should mess with my kid, right? I mean, that's just common. I remember if a teacher messed with one of my brothers, my mom was down to that school to straighten it out. It's not like that today. It's way more political. But back then, teachers could be ruthless. Of course, students could be ruthless too. But man, don't mess with somebody's kid, especially if you're the one in the wrong. Now, parents will often make sure that their kids are well fed, well educated, that they get a good night's sleep. They make sure that they wear their seatbelts, wear their helmets when they're riding their bikes, and see the doctor and the dentist on a regular basis. But believe it or not, our text today tells us one of the most important protections we can offer our children. In fact, if you only followed this one simple rule, it would accomplish more for your children than anything else you could ever do. Within this very sad tale of Solomon's failure to obey God is the key to how we protect our kids, not only while they live with us, but until the day they die. But before I get to that, let's talk about who Solomon was, okay? What was the deal with King Solomon? The Bible tells us that Solomon was a blessed man. That he was a blessed man. We learned that Solomon was allowed to establish the borders of Israel further and in greater way than any other ruler prior and any ruler since. He accumulated wealth beyond any other king in Israel's history. In fact, 1 Kings 10:14 tells us that he received 25 tons of gold every year as a tribute from other kings, surrounding kings. Every year, 25 tons of gold from nations all around. In addition to that, he was honored in ways that his father David never was. I mean, Solomon got to do some things that David was not allowed to do. God spoke directly to Solomon twice. Spoke directly to him twice. Now, to David, he spoke through prophets. Right? And God permitted Solomon to build God's holy temple on the Temple Mount right there in Jerusalem. I've been there. The temple has been destroyed, but the floor right where that would have stood is still there, and the Jews hope to someday build another temple. But Solomon got to build the temple in Jerusalem, something David wasn't allowed to do because God considered him a man of war. And of course, Solomon was considered to be one of the wisest men who ever lived, maybe the wisest. He wrote the book of Proverbs. He wrote the book of Ecclesiastes. He wrote the book of Song of Solomon. To his credit, we know that he, and 1 Kings tells us this, he spoke 3,000 Proverbs and wrote 5,000 songs. He was so smart. He talked about things like plant life and the cedar of Lebanon and the hyssop of that which grows up the walls. And he taught about animals and birds and reptiles and fish. In fact, men from all different nations would come and listen to Solomon's wisdom, and they were sent there by their kings from all over the world just so they could hear his wisdom. So the question naturally comes, I mean, you've got to be thinking, how could anyone who is so smart do something so dumb? How could a man who is so blessed by God end up turning his back on God? Why would this man who enjoyed such a close relationship with God end up following Asherah, the goddess of the Syrians, or Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites, and burning incense and offering sacrifices to their gods? Why would Solomon do something so foolish? Take a look at 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 9. It says, the Lord became angry with Solomon because his heart, everyone say his heart, his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who appeared to him twice. His heart had turned away from the Lord. What caused Solomon's heart to turn away from the Lord? Well, he had developed this kind of arrogance. Look again at verses 1 and 2. It says, King Solomon, however, loved many foreign women besides Pharaoh's daughter. Pharaoh's daughter, Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Scythians, and Hittites. They were from the nations about which the Lord had told the Israelites, you must not intermarry with them, because they will surely turn your hearts after their gods. Nonetheless, Solomon held fast to loving them. And so, if God had commanded his people not to marry women from those nations, why on earth would Solomon marry them, bride? You tell me, why did he marry those women? God had warned his people if they married these women, their foreign wives would turn their hearts towards other gods. God told them that. Why would he do it? And I'm going to tell you why. Because he could. You know why? Because he was the king. You know why? Because there wasn't anybody there to stop him. No big deal. He's the king. And besides, he's too strong to be brought down by their influence. He was too deep in his own faith, too close to God to be drawn into their other faiths. Solomon was arrogant enough to believe that the commands of God applied only to other people, not him. You know, I've been a pastor a long time. A number of times over the years, I've told young people who are talking about dating someone of a different faith or no faith, someone who's a Christian, either a boy or a girl, a young person. I'm thinking about dating, this guy who's not a Christian, he's an atheist. And they always say the same thing, like, oh, I bet I can get him to come to church and I bet he'll change. I bet I can change him. I bet I can get him to come to Bible study or to youth group, and eventually he'll become a Christian. I mean, I know that God's Word tells me I shouldn't, but I believe he'll change for me. And the reason their faith is too strong to be watered down. They're like, oh no, I'm on fire for the Lord. I know anything about anything. But most of the time, they end up having the man or woman of their dreams, but their hearts turn away from Jesus. That's arrogance. The belief that God's rules apply to someone else, not me. And that's what happened to Solomon. So listen, when we're up here preaching and teaching in grow groups and youth group, and we're preaching this stuff, you can't sit there and say, okay, now that applies to me and that one doesn't. This one, we can't cherry pick God's Word. It's either God's Word or it's not. That leads to the second and more basic reason Solomon's heart turned from God. And that is simply this. Solomon spent time with the wrong people. He did. Solomon spent time with the wrong people. God said, don't hang out with these people. They'll ruin your faith. They'll undermine your love for God. They'll make you doubt God's faithfulness. Now, King David, Solomon's father, had written this, and I want you to hear it in Psalm chapter 1, verses 1 to 3. Listen to this. Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, or stand in the way of sinners, or sit in the seat of mockers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by the streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever he does prospers. That's different than Solomon saying, ooh, there's wife number 301. Right? There's certain people you don't hang out with. If you want to have the full blessing of God in your life, you don't walk around with wicked people. If you want God's blessing in your life, you don't want to stand around with people who enjoy and rejoice in sinning. You don't want to sit down with people who mock God and make fun of your church and make fun of your faith. You don't. You want to sit around with people that when you bow your head to pray, that they're snickering at you. You hang out with the wrong people, and here's what happens. You begin to pick up your bad habits. You ever notice that? And you start talking like them. You start using their terminology. And you begin to look at your family and job the same way they do. And most importantly, you begin to view God the way that they view God. I have a friend who's an attorney. One of the most peculiar things that he's noticed about people in jail is that they begin taking advice about their legal system, about the legal system from fellow inmates. So they've got all these family that come and try to give them advice. People from the outside, people that are wise enough not to be inside, right? They're giving them all this advice. Hey man, listen, here's what you should do. This is how you should probably talk to your lawyer. And this is how this will go. And we've been talking to people. And that makes sense. But you know what they do? They say, no. When one of their cellmates scoffs at that advice and they tell the young man what they would do. Remember, this is an inmate. And they describe how poor the lawyer is that his parents have gotten for him. And they tell the young man that the judge is a hanging judge. And he doesn't stand a chance in front of him. Who do you think the young man listens to? Does he listen to his relatives or to the other inmates? He listens to the inmate, his cellmate. I heard one inmate describe why he had taken such bad advice. And he replied, well, the guy had been in here for a long time, and I thought he'd know. Why would you take advice from someone who is lost? Hey man, I'm lost in this forest. Can you tell me how to get out of here? Man, I'm lost too, but I think I could probably go that way. It doesn't make sense. See, if you hang around with those people too long enough, you will begin to think the way that they think. Number three. Unfortunately, Solomon wasn't wise enough to realize what was going on in his life. Number 3, look at the consequences of his bad decision. We're almost done. And so God told Solomon, because you have turned your back on me, I will most certainly tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your subordinates. The kingdom was supposed to be passed to his son, Solomon's son, Rehoboam. It was his right of succession. But Solomon robbed his son of this great inheritance right because he turned his back on God. Nevertheless, says God. Nevertheless, says God, for the sake of David, your father, I'm not going to do it during your lifetime. I'll tear it off of the hand of your son. Yet I will not tear the whole kingdom from him, but will give him one tribe for the sake of David, my servant, and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen. All right, catch this, right? Solomon had sinned. Solomon had deliberately turned his back on God. He had disobeyed God. And yet God withheld his hand of punishment during Solomon's lifetime. And even Solomon's son Rehoboam, who would lose over half of the kingdom because of Solomon's sin, he didn't lose everything. How come? Why wasn't the entire kingdom ripped away from Solomon and his family? Because of David. Remember, the Bible says David was a man after God's own heart. See, there's this thing that we miss a lot as Christians. And I hope you hold on to this. It's called the umbrella effect of faith. In Exodus chapter 20, where we get the Ten Commandments, God gives this warning and promise and blessing. Listen to this. It says this: "You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the third and the fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments." See, most of the time we only look at the curse of that third commandment. God will punish the children for the sin of the fathers through the third and the fourth generation. However, just listen. What the third commandment assures us is this: that curse can be short-circuited. Men and women who have lived lives that have angered God can change the course of their children's history simply by turning their hearts back to God. We're told that God desires to show love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commands. People who show love to God receive the blessing of God's love to their children. And I don't know how all that works. And I don't know at what level, at what depth God puts an umbrella over your kids when you finally turn your life around and give it to God. I don't know what kind of blessing there is and how long it lasts. But I do believe that the Bible specifically teaches that when you start to get your stuff in a group and you start turning your life over to God, that there's this umbrella. That even though you have screwed up in a lot of ways and for maybe a long time, that when you start making the turn, this umbrella effect comes. I'm going to tell you what Solomon's problem was. He turned his back on God. If there's one simple rule for protecting your family, face God. Face Him. Face Him. He doesn't hate you. He's not disappointed with you. He's not going to turn his back on you. He's not going to kick you to the curb. He would have done that already. But instead he said, no, I know they're a wreck, but I'm going to send Jesus. So all they have to do is receive Christ and this sacrifice, and they will be good to go with me. We turn our back on God because we've got it all figured out. You know what that's called, Drive? That's called arrogance. Solomon paid. Would you bow your heads? Let me take these lights down just a little bit. Just a couple of questions before we get out of here. That's so patient. Have you been turning your back on God in some ways? I think of ways that men do it, maybe viewing the wrong stuff, mistreating their wives, marginalizing them, not bringing their kids up in a strong Christian atmosphere. Making it more about them and their desires than following God. And maybe you're a lady here you've got your back turned to God because life didn't work out the way that you wanted it to. Maybe you've been ill. Maybe some guy broke your heart, treated you like garbage. Maybe you're just hurting deep inside from abuse. And you just turn your back on God. How could a loving God let something awful like that happen? How could God let good people suffer? To which I would say, show me good people. The Bible teaches that we've all sinned, all fallen short of the glory of God. Have you turned your back on God? Think of it. Maybe with your finances. Oh no, God, I could never support a church, a ministry, a movement other than what is going on in my own life. Oh no, God, I can't make it to church more than once a month because I play golf, I go to the lake, and I have other things. Oh no, God, I can't be faithful again to a spouse. I've already shown that I don't have that ability. I can't do that, God. Come on. Are there areas in your life where you just know that you've turned your back on God? One simple rule for protecting your family thrive. Face the Lord. Face the cross. If there's someone here, I'm going to pray in just a second. If there's someone here and you would just like me to cover you in prayer, I promise not to embarrass you. I promise not to make you stand up and do jumping jacks. But just simply raise your hand as an acknowledgement that you would like God's help in your life. Would you raise that right now? Right now, Thrive. Come on. There's probably 30 hands up. Is there anybody else? Lord, today we face you. Full on. We face you. And what we see is love, not condemnation. The Bible says in Romans chapter 8, there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Because through Christ Jesus, the law of the Spirit of life has set me free from the law of sin and death. You have set us free. Help us to walk in that truth. And this week, as we walk, and as we get tempted to go to the right or to the left, to go to the bars and hang out, go to the strip club to hang out, to go blow money that we don't have, to do things that we shouldn't do, say things that we shouldn't say, be people that we shouldn't be. God, would you just help us look at you? Create in us a clean heart. Oh God, I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Would you stand, Thrive?